Howdy, everyone. Tad Stevens on the Micro Success Secrets podcast, where we focus on business psychology and marketing and how you can use those in your business daily and long term. Today, I'm talking with Ray McKenzie, who is the founder and CEO of StartingPoint, a software as a service management and delivery platform, and the founder and managing director of Red Beach Advisors, a technology management consulting firm based in Los Angeles, California. Ray is a tech veteran with more than 20 years with early stage and public companies, specializing in strategy, operational efficiency, and digital transformation focused on software, cybersecurity, and operations. Ray, how you doing? And take a minute and let us know anything else I might have missed.
I'm doing well. Thank you for the introduction, and thank you for having me on your podcast.
Well, you're very welcome. Today, what I want to talk to you about is a lot of the things that you came across in your career to get you where you are today, some of the struggles, some of the questions, because that, I believe, will benefit our listeners, because I think a lot of them are in that same situation. So really, just to roll into it, the first question is, if there was one life or business decision that you could change, would you change it? And if you would, what would you change it to?
I think in my time of being kind of an entrepreneur, a business owner, and starting companies and things of that nature, if there was one thing I would change, it would be focused on building a company with a large, I guess, tangible addressable market to start, and understanding that thoroughly. When I built my management consulting firm, Red Beach Advisors, I went through a period of significant growing pains year one and year two. Mm-hmm. And what I mean by that is, I started my business, I fell into consulting. I had some CEOs that reached out to me and said, "Can you help?" And I was like, "Yeah, let's do it." And so I automatically jumped into starting my company with clients and customers. But then as I found out, clients and customers and contracts end. And so
they do that, yeah.
They do that. Yeah. And so with that, you always have to go out and have a defined market that you're going after, a defined area that you're going to work to serve, a defined specialty. And as I kind of continued to grow Red Beach Advisors, that became more clear. Mm-hmm. However, if I would have built that early on in year one and year two, my sales funnel and leads and all of those things would have been much stronger in those first formative years. And so that's one of the challenges that I specifically had to work through when I was building my professional services firm. Was, one, make sure that, you have a good picture as to what your firm is going to specifically do. You can't do everything for everybody. Mm-hmm. And then two, the second lesson I learned was you have to continuously sell.
Yes.
You can't, it's not field dreams, it's not build it and they will come.
Because they don't.
That's just not how it works. But if you build it and then you go out and find your customers and you have a solid value prop, a solid offering, they will come.
Okay. No, that is great. And I talked to a lot of people that well, actually they're in a worse situation than you are, or that you were back then. They didn't know who their target market was. They didn't know how to go after them, and they were just starting out. They didn't have, people that had got them started off, which, like you said, like you mentioned, can be kind of scary when those contracts end. Because I was a contractor for 25 years, and I hated the end of every contract. It never got any better, just because I never knew where the next one was coming from. And that is one thing I never did in mine, is what you're talking about that you did that got you through that beginning phase. So excellent. So if you could name one thing in your career or your life that was super positive, and you kind of look at your life or your business as everything before it and everything after it, do you have one defining moment like that?
I'd say super positive would be the introduction of a couple of books, surprisingly,
Okay.
that I was introduced to. So this is a bit different. Is the first book that I'd say was wildly eye-opening for me was Blue Ocean Strategy.
Great
And
book.
it's a phenomenal book, and obviously it was introduced to me to kind of develop my value prop, develop what's different, kind of strengthen my business and how I was looking at the development and ongoing strategy of my firms and my company. So I've always held on to that book as kind of one of the core principles. The other book that I kind of hold true to things is another company called The Lean Startup.
Okay.
And why do I say that is because it's a book that drives forward with a lot of the methodologies and principles I try to put into place, which is being efficient, being lean, building a business the right way you're supposed to build a business, making sure you're finding out, having great people around you, really driving efficiency. And so those things have helped me build two relatively successful companies in a short amount of time. And I think the introduction to those books, and the one thing I always say is if somebody tells you to read a book who's successful, either on your level or above your level, Amazon has an easy one-click cart button that you can,
they do.
you can use. And so you get the book and you read the book. Because there's always something that you can take out of the book or a principle that you can apply. And those two books specifically have been able to help me like really craft the businesses, the success points and things like that. I think, I think the answer to almost anything in life at this point is probably within a book. And you just kind of have to find that book.
Yeah, and those are great books. I haven't read the second one. I've heard a lot about it. I need to get that on my list, but I'll also list both of those in the show notes so people can take advantage of that. And as you go through your career and you're in a creative position, you have to come up with things, you have to build things. And I know for me, one of the things that I deal with in my creative life is writer's block. I get writer's block all the time and I get stuck, but that's a small thing relatively. There are big things where you get stuck in your day-to-day, where you get stuck in a business decision. In any of those, is there any tips or methods that you use to get unstuck for yourself or maybe even for your team?
Yeah, there's a few different things I try to do. The first thing I try to do is if there's any sort of writer's block, things like that, I try to go exercise, workout.
I love it.
That's the first thing I try to do. So, whether it be going for a run or whether to go, work out or however, break a sweat, it allows you to take your eyes off of the computer. It allows you to relax your brain. It allows you to think about something other than work. And it gets your mind going to a certain extent. And so that always helps me because every time I go for a run, I end up coming back with 5 to 6 different ideas of things I want to do. Whether that's good or bad or otherwise, that seems to have worked out well. And then another thing I try to do is I'll just completely shift to something that's completely off topic of whatever I'm working on. And move to something that's completely disparate. And that allows me to come back and revisit from a different point of view. And then the third bit, I'll just talk to somebody, and run ideas across them and just kind of have a brainstorming session. And sometimes that triggers the work. Staring at what you're blocked on for hours upon hours upon hours doesn't work.
No, I've tried. It doesn't work for me either. No, I totally get that.
Yeah, it's sometimes you need either a different perspective or you need to look at to solve another challenge, or maybe just completely just take your eyes off it completely, and get an outside perspective on things.
Well, I love the exercise one because I do that. I've found that is some of my more creative time, even if when I am stuck on something is that, like you said, takes my mind off of it and things just kind of flow. So, okay. So last question is, if you had to start over in either one of your companies, in both companies, in your career, if you had to start from scratch, what would you do?
I probably would have focused on starting my companies earlier in my career.
Okay.
And slowly built them up throughout my career, which is, every year I worked for an early stage or public company was beneficial to my growth as a business owner, founder, CEO, managing director, with my skills and the people I know in my network. Mm-hmm. However, I would have also focused on, while I was doing that, building my own blueprint for my own practice earlier in my career, so that I would have known in year 8 and year 10 that I would have been like, hey, I'm working on building this consulting practice. This is where I want to go. So probably a bit more foresight in terms of my career, in terms of what I wanted to accomplish and how fast I wanted to accomplish it. Starting my first firm, Red Beach Advisors, kind of all happened within a matter of like 6 months. It was like, I'm working at a company. I get a call from a couple of CEOs. They're like, we need help. I'm like, okay, I'll help you. There you go. Now we've got Red Beach Advisors. That's kind of how it worked. It wasn't I'm going to think about this for 2-3 years and put this into action. And so that was an interesting aspect. If I would have kept thinking about that early on in my career, it would have been more well-developed, more thought through. And then I would have kind of been able to solve a bit of the roadblocks I had in my career. And then I'd say another thing I would have changed was I would have focused on being more self-aware of my gaps. Running a business, as you know, forces you to find out what you're good at and what you're not good at really, really fast. And then you have to figure out, how do I solve those challenges? Do I go out and hire somebody to solve it, or do I build the skill set myself? And when I started my consulting firm, all those things that I was not strong at bubbled up to the top really fast. And so then you've got to pivot, learn, read, talk to, get counseling from, hire, all of those things to try to close those gaps. But if I would have known about those earlier, I could have worked to solve those early in my career. Now, everything itself has worked out well because I've been able to overcome those. But those are things that would have sped up the success of the business.
Understand. Right. Thank you very much. Really, really appreciate your time being here today. It's time to wrap up, but I want to check, is there anything you want to close with? Do you have something to offer the listeners or to give to the listeners that they might be able to use?
Definitely. I'd say for me, if anybody would like to get in contact with me, feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn, Raymond McKenzie. You can also visit our website at www.startingpoint.ai or www.redbeachadvisors.com, which is the consulting firm. And then I definitely welcome everybody. We just launched StartingPoint, which is a software as a service management platform. We're targeting companies between 2 to 50 individuals and helping them solve challenges around onboarding, project management, help desk and service management, and customer success. And so if anybody would like to learn more about that, please feel free to reach out to us at www.startingpoint.ai.
Okay, that is super. And I'll make sure that those links are in the show notes as well. Thanks again for being here. Really appreciate it. Thanks again, everybody. Appreciate everybody being here as well. Have a safe and productive week and be the very, very best at whatever it is that you're doing. Until next time, this is Tad Stevens with Micro Success Secrets. Bye for now.